Hello and welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast. BuiltOnAir is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase.
In this episode, we chat with Hannah Wiginton of Abilene, Texas, the Communications and Grants Director for New Horizons, a nonprofit organization for foster families. We discuss the various programs New Horizons offers for prospective foster parents, as well as for the foster kids themselves, from family placement to counseling. In addition to her work at New Horizons, Hannah also freelances as a web designer and content creator. Hannah gives us a rundown of how she's able to balance these two careers and the day-to-day experience as both a nonprofit grant writer as well as a freelancer. Later, Hannah walks us through her Book Tracker Airtable base, which has allowed her to stay organized around her third passion, reading. Her base tracks the books she's read, the books she's been recommended, and the ones next on her to-read list. Her base employs a metrics table and several views to give her the rewarding feedback of not only how many books she's read year over year, but the number of words too. Hannah put her base on the Airtable Universe to help others who need a simple way to set a goal, like reading more, and tracking their progress on reaching it.
So this is my book tracker database, and this is one that I just really helped me see a lot of what Airtable can do. I love to read and always have. And when I found Airtable, I thought, oh my goodness, I can keep track of the books I read. I can keep information about them. I can make my own notes about, did I even like the book or what it was about, give my ratings, and really just make it my own snapshot of what I'm reading. And so I just started adding books in here, and it's really awesome to be able to keep track of them. It also, as a full-time worker and a mom and a wife and all the other things I love to do on the side, it kind of it commits me to read more even when I don't always have a chance. So that's an exciting thing. So this is kind of my main snapshot is the table view. But obviously you've got the title and the cover, and the author is a relational over here to the next tab, just to keep track of, what authors I'm maybe really liking more than others.
Yeah.
I'm going to open one of these up here. Just grab an image, connect to the authors, the status of if I've read it or unread, or even I want to read. The genre. I can kind of keep track of if I'm reading more fiction or nonfiction, and kind of even it out. Sometimes I'll put a synopsis in here. I obviously did not on this one. Kind of depends. What's great about making it your own is you can do what you want with it. So when I read it, the year, whether I actually own it, or, sometimes what's great, our library has the electronic version of books, so I can check it out electronically from my local library, and read it that way. My personal rating of it, and then my review. And a lot of times I know that if I give it a good rating, I'm probably going to read it again. So if it's part of a series, so I read several books in series, and I can just kind of keep track of which one that it's in. All these fields over here, like the pages and how many times I've read it. A lot of that I get from Goodreads. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit of manual tracking, so it's not perfect, but I enjoy keeping track of it. So And then this here is just the metrics, the total books I have, and it links to another table over here, just track of what I've read. This is just, the current ones I've read, and I can see exactly how many I've read this year. This is my favorite one when you can actually look at the gallery. It's like a library on your computer, and just to look at all the books that I've had on here. It's really a nice snapshot of the database.
Okay.
And then just several other views that, to quickly be able to go and see what, just a snapshot of what I want to see.
So I see that your status is also a relation or a link field. The first thing I would think of is, I would expect that to be like a single select field, but you actually made it its own table. And I see you did that so you can have metrics for those as well, how many you've counted, how many you've read, and how many you're currently reading. That's actually really smart. I like that idea.
Yeah. And, it could have been possible to do it in a grouped field in the books. But I thought, I want to see on its own table what I've got going on. And so I did the same with, I did it with the status and the genre also. So I can see how many in the category I have of those also.
Right.
And then my metrics, I just did the fields here just to count how many I have in each author in each book.
Great. So do you think this space has over time helped you read more, or at least focus the books that you want to read more?
Oh, no doubt. Really, it's almost just a commitment to me when I put the books in there and I say, I want to read this. And I can go back and look at it and say, oh, it's been 2 weeks and I haven't even started reading. And when I started this database a couple of years ago, I really was not reading more than, oh goodness, a few books a year. And, we can all blame time, but if you're committed, you might do some things. So what it did for me was the year that I made this, I read, I don't know, 25 or 30 books, which was more than I had read in years at a time. And so it really gave me something to say, oh, I'm going to log that because I'll know I have read it. And, I read both fiction and nonfiction books and helpful books and just random books. And it was really great because I hadn't done that in a long time, and it helped me to really get through the books and finish, which was great.
Yeah, I mean, good for you, because I certainly could read more too, and maybe I need to make one of these.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me read a lot more and made it more fun too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sort of reward you feel after you've had a book that's logged in your base, right? That says, I want to read this. And then you read it and you can finally mark it off as done. There's a certain amount of satisfaction you get after, just, yeah.
And, just the nerdy parts of it. Well, how many words have I read this year? Does that really matter? No, probably not. But
it makes you feel good.
I say, oh, well, maybe I'm a bit smarter than I was a year ago.
Well, you could think of it like this. If you read 20 books one year and maybe 15 the other, but the 15 book year, they were longer with more words. There you go.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the great reasons to track these, because you can kind of see your year over year return and what you're doing. And so I've really enjoyed it.
Have you found that you're starting to enjoy one genre more than you used to? or, has it helped you expand the types of things that you've read?
I would say that what it did was kind of make me just read outside of my normal genre.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, as you can tell from this snapshot here, I'm all over the board. And so before that, I would probably read more Westerns. I also like some nonfiction help books like The One Tough Mother and,
Mm-hmm.
just those kinds. But when I was able to track it, I kind of would pick books that were out of my normal, like The Girl in the Tower and The Bear and
Mm-hmm.
Nightingale. And those maybe aren't books that I would normally read, but number one, they were really great books. But
Mm-hmm.
when I started reading them, and I would pick things that were kind of outside of my normal, and which is always good, stretch yourself a little bit. And I do think it helped to really read all around different genres.
Mm-hmm. There's that age old problem of with anything, whether it be a book or a TV show or a movie. Oh, I just read this book. It was so great. You've got to read it. And there's no
Yeah.
way, unless you write it down right when they say it, you're
Uh-huh.
going to forget. But if you have one of these, you're going to have a running list of all the ones that have been recommended to you as well.
That is exactly right. This book on here, The Nightingale, I probably wouldn't have picked it out, but one of my friends said, "Oh my goodness, I read this book and it was so great." And so I stuck it in my database and I thought, well, maybe I'll read it soon. And
Mm-hmm.
then I did. And on top of that, other people recommending books, I was able to recommend books several times. I said, "Oh my goodness, you've got to go read this book, The First 15 Lives of Harry August." That was an interesting book.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can go back and look and say, "Oh, I really like that book. You should really read it." And it just gives you more things to talk about.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm just thinking of, I wish Airtable were a little bit more flexible in how they showed images for the gallery view, because
Yes.
obviously books are portrait mode always. So
Yes, I would love if it was, you know, filled it a little more but didn't cut it off.
yeah.
um, it would definitely make it better. So
hmm So I saw that this base is on the Airtable Universe.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I I made it and I think they had not even started the universe yet. I don't think
Oh wow.
they'd done it. And so when they did put that out there, I thought, I love my database. Surely someone
Mm-hmm.
else will love using it as their database too.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm just going to put this out there because I know it's been super helpful to me. So I think someone else is going to be able to get a lot of help from it too. So I put it out there. And then I also posted in the forum about it in the show and tell category because I just love it so much. And so it got a lot of response in the forum, which was great. And I know now it's been in the universe for a while and it's
Mm-hmm.
been copied quite a bit, which is great. So I'm glad a lot of people are able to use it.
Yeah, it is great. It's also nice to hear that a lot of people are reading
Yes,
on top of all that. Yeah.
I'm telling you, once you put it in your workspace, you're going to want to commit and you're going to want to read.
I think that's, generally true, just life. When you have a goal for something, if you don't have a way to track it, you might start slipping. So
That's exactly right.
make an Airtable for it. Well, thank you so much for showing this with me. I love it, and I'm probably going to copy it on the Airtable Universe too, so I can start reading more.
Oh, good. Well, I hope it helps you. I'm telling you, it'll keep you motivated.
I'm sure it will. And I just got to go through all of the books that have been said to me. Oh, you've got to read this. I
Yeah.
got to remember what they were because I didn't write them down, but now I will.
It takes a little bit of time to kind of get it set up the way you want it and start putting your books in. But once you start doing it, it just kind of becomes a habit, and you just do it a lot more often.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a great time, and I just appreciate what all you guys are doing.
We appreciate what you do. You do a lot of important work, and
Thank you.
yeah, just great. So I hope you have a great rest of your morning and rest of your Saturday.
Well, thanks. I hope you do too.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.